Hello, hello. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning into the very first episode of the Carolina Storm rebuild. As you can see, we are starting off in Baltimore, and we will probably run through Baltimore the whole first season because the backstory will be that the ownership group is so disappointed with the franchise that they're going to totally go scorched earth on the team at the conclusion of this season if they perform badly. So the team will be moving to Charleston, South Carolina. Sorry, don't kill me if you're from there. And the stadium will be huge. Like I'm talking, maybe 370 plus in the corners, 450 in the middle. You're not hitting home runs in this park, is what I'm getting at. And so we're going to build our team to fit that, I guess I should say. It's going to have a lot of speed, a lot of small ball. Power is not the most important thing because, as I said earlier, home runs aren't happening. You're trying to hit gaps, and so the current plan, as you can see on this team, is right now going to be a seller at the deadline. Start moving some of these top players like John Means. I know I'm going to keep Cedric Mullins and Adley Rutschman, but that outside of that, I don't think anybody is guaranteed to be here next year. I'll probably end up keeping a lot just because it's a lot of work to sign other players, but just they're not here. They're not here for the long term future, I guess I should say. And so, as you can see, Adley Rutschman, 70 overall, a potential. I think he may be the catcher of the future, but I am not exactly 100% sure because his arm is a little weaker than I typically like. But it is also that he's 21 and he has plenty of time to get better. So now we are entering the draft. And there is one player I'm looking at more than any other, and it's another catcher, ironically, and it's what is it? Pereira. There we go. That's how you say it. And then you have Mark Frank as well. Those are the I think end up being my first two picks in the draft. I'm cut out a lot because there's a lot of wasted time in between drafting, and my audio wasn't even there at the beginning like I wanted. Like I was live recording, the audio didn't stick with it, so I have to do a voiceover. Won't happen, but it's going to be that way for the next two videos. But so Pereira ended up having the same exact arm strength as Adley Rutschman. So I was left in a situation that I was like two catchers that are great, eight potential catchers. I mean, Pereira's 3 years younger and about maybe three or four overall points worse. So I was like, I may end up with him, but none of them are amazing to me. But Mark Frank is the guy I would like to talk about. He's exactly what I needed for my center fielder. The only thing I wish he had more of was potential. Because right now he's a contact goon, speed and stealing guy, and he can field. Just everything you need. Mark Fay, on the other hand, was not what I like. He's cool, just not amazing, not the ace that I was hoping to get. And then there was, I think everyone else was cool. I ended up signing everyone. Joaquin Hernandez was one of those dreaded 40 overall players with high potential that will never reach it until they're like 28 or 29 when it's too late for you to really develop that much of an attachment to him. So I don't think I'll be keeping him. But Mark Frank, as you can see, he keeps showing up. This guy is a goon, and I will be using him. Pereira will definitely find a way. Between him and Rutschman, I don't know what I'm going to do. I think one of them may move to first base. I may trade one of them for a prospect I like later down the line, but I'm not exactly sure here. It may be Adley's time to go because he's also 3 years older. It's a good thing about drafting an 18-year-old. And so I send the rest of the season, and as you expected, we suck. We got some trade offers, as you can see. I didn't really accept any till the trade, like till we got near the trade deadline because I was trying to maximize values of certain players. And honestly, I wasn't trying to slow down the rebuild that much because that draft process, I actually like manually did it, so it took forever. This video is going to be around 18-20 minutes long, but I'm telling you, the total video footage was about an hour. Um, I don't remember exactly why I was looking at Gallo here. Oh, I was looking at the trade deadline to see if I could make any trades for. I was looking for young pitchers. I just wanted to look at Gallo's stats because I didn't know he was. This is my first time looking at this update, and he was looking kind of good. And I didn't think I found anybody directly that I wanted. But I do end up making a trade here. But I will get to it when it actually happens. John Means is always somebody who does really well in this game. And honestly, in most rebuilds I do, if the team needs a pitcher that like a lefty specifically, he's typically the one I go for. And it's funny because now he's on the team that I'm rebuilding, and I'm going to move him anyways. Cedric Mullins is I don't think he was that hot at this point, but his stats just inevitably leave you to believe that he's going to end up being a goat. Trey Mancini is Trey Mancini, but I also wanted to move him. I think Austin Hayes was young enough for me to want to commit to. So I think my ideal outfield at this point in time was going to be Mullins in left field, Austin Hayes, and I think right. And then I wanted Mark in center. Um, y'all will see later in the next episode what truly happens, but that was my plan at the point in time. Ryan Mountcastle had a solid season. Solid first half, I should say. And I didn't think I was going to move on from him because he's also young. But this team, like on a totally unrelated note from what y'all are seeing, this team, like, it just needs a lot of time, I guess. There's nobody I'm in, like, the way I build teams, I like building attachments to certain players. While Cedric Mullins is cool, there's nobody else outside of Mark Frank that I just drafted that I'm like, I need to keep on this team. And the catcher prospects, but just somebody you truly want to see. This Joey Gallo trade out here was crazy, but whatever. I guess he was on the trade block. Um, and so I don't typically accept any trades from the computer because they always try to. They just don't offer you enough for it to be worth making a trade. Because these aren't people you'd keep long term. The Garrett Mitchell guy came up a few times. He was cool. Just not somebody I saw on my feed. We didn't need another catcher. I'm pretty sure that's what he was. So yeah, that's how that went. But this team, like, I think because I've already played a game at this point, and y'all will see it in the next episode. I think I may have to shrink the ballpark a little bit because while we get hammered because the team's still not that good. Well, ignore that if you didn't want spoilers, but like the team's not that good. But even they had some power hitters swinging, and they could not leave the park. I had so many good hits that were just like flyouts because if you have somebody fast enough in the corner outfield, you're gonna get to everywhere you need to get to. Like you pretty much just want line drives in this park. Anything up in the air is not to your benefit, and it's funny, but it's also like, damn, nobody's gonna get over 10 home runs this season. It looks like, unless you do them all at other parks, which is likely. But no, this team, I'm kind of scrapping some of the power hitters we have. So now we got this offer for Cedric Mullins. It was not happening. I'm not trading Cedric Mullins. I was looking to see if they had other prospects that I'd potentially want. And I think this is when I realized it was Cedric Mullins. I was like, nah, we getting up out of here because I'm not trading Cedric Mullins. He's a goon, and I'm going to end up keeping him. So now we are officially at the home run, like the All-Star weekend, I guess I should say. And this is when we start actually looking to make moves. So we got the Brewers here asking for John Means, which is somebody I was definitely looking to trade, but they offered guys we don't need. Oh, Garrett Mitchell wasn't a catcher; he was a center fielder. I forgot. Either way, we had just drafted his position, so we didn't need him. I went to look through the players to see if there was anybody worth me actually trading, and of course there was nobody. And sadly, when the computer offers you something, you can't edit their offer and come back at them with a separate trade. So the trade did not happen. But I believe after around this time, after this trade, we took this trade for Nicky Lopez because obviously Freddie Galvis is not somebody that's a long-term option at the shortstop position, and Nicky Lopez looked kind of what we needed, a defensive-minded shortstop that has decent contact. He's young enough, not to be a permanent option, but an option that I would utilize for a couple of seasons. And I didn't really like any of the people that he wanted. The relief pitcher was okay, but I don't like, you can find those a dime a dozen in the draft, so I was like, I'd let him go. And I think we end up taking that trade for Nicky Lopez. If we didn't, we make a trade later for him. But I think we took that one. Sorry. And as for the re-sign, Cedric Mullins, of course, had to get a deal, but I was not, as we are a cheap franchise, I'm not going to be paying him a crazy amount of money. You can see how this process goes. I just don't believe that it would be realistic for this team to be signing anybody to large contracts, especially after getting hit with that Chris Davis mistake. They're not going to be going off of a year or two of successful performance and giving you mega deals anymore. That's too recent of a memory. So I gave him a shorter deal. Um, I was trying to get it 1 year. He would not accept it. So I think I ended up offering him 2 or 3 years for about a mil, 1.5 to 2 mil, I think is what it ended up being. But yeah, that was how we got Cedric Mullins back because that dude's definitely going to be our cleanup hitter for the rest for the foreseeable future. The only thing I wish he could do is up his potential at all because I think it's like mid 80s, well mid to high 80s. Mark Franks is mid 80s. It's like gosh, we can't get any superstars on this team. But I know if you perform well enough, you can get that potential up, and that's what we're going to be hoping happens. But all right, we're back to looking for trades for John Means, and I'm gonna wait for it to show up. But I believe we end up going to the Mariners. I want to say, y'all will see shortly, anyways. But I believe it was the Mariners, and we got two great A potential prospects. I'm gonna sit here in silence until y'all see it, because I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Alrighty, we are about here at the trade I ended up accepting. It was Noel V. Marte and Todd Tucker, and both 18 years old, average about 70 overall. So these are players that will definitely get out into the field, and I was happy, so happy to get these boys because they are players that I will end up using like long term. Even like Marte is a great prospect. Even if I don't end up liking him that much, he's young enough. He's 18 at 73 overall. That's someone you can move. And so while I did trade for Nicky Lopez, it gives him some time to develop in the minors. But he may end up just be somebody I use in a year or two. So I was glad I got him. Trey Mancini, I don't think I found a good trade for him ever. So I didn't move him. Here is Todd Tucker's stats for where he is. Good fielding. He has an absolute noodle. No power in his body, whether that be in his arm strength or just swinging the bat. There's nothing. He's a contact dude. Now, Noel V. Marte, I mean, is decent hitting stats, decent fielding, decent everything. So it's like there's nothing you're really lacking in this man, just nothing that stands out yet, which is okay because as I just said, he is only 18 years old. So this trade right here, I didn't like Paul Fry and Andrew Vaughn at 2168, and look at those splits versus lefties. I was like, what I realized I may have to do is just platoon first base because this dude has crazy stats versus lefties, but the stats versus righties suck, and he's still really young, so I didn't know what I would end up doing with him at the time. But all I knew is I didn't love Paul Fry. Well, I didn't see myself using Paul Fry long term. And so I was like, let me make the trade. A potential guy, 21 years old. There's plenty of time to make him worth something. And he honestly, his fielding wasn't too bad for a 21-year-old at first base. So he has some potential, I should say, for me at least. So he took that. Next with Anthony Santander, and I don't remember exactly what I did with him. We'll see. You'll see as I do. I think we end up no, we didn't take this trade because they offered it, I believe, and I didn't want the first guy you just saw, and Edwin Yon just was like another left fielder that I didn't really need. He wasn't fast either, and I like my outfielders to be fast, especially when you see this park that we play in. So the trade deadline passed, and I think those were the main trades we made. Michael Feliz was a reliever that's just nothing special, so I didn't see the point of giving up prospects when you could sign plenty of those in free agency. So we let that go, and I think we just went on to the rest of the season to let the rest of the season go by. We signed Nicky Lopez, realizing he was on an expiring contract. We had to sign him for a couple years. I tried to do the same thing as Cedric Mullins for a year because that's more realistic, but they fight you for two. So I took a lot less time this time and just ended up signing him and just said screw it. So next, we was just trying to get through the actual season. I think we checked up on everybody's stats. We saw Cedric Mullen was at 293 again. Well, he started off at, I think it was around 270 when we first checked in. So like he's getting hot as the season goes on, which is what you love to see. That was the whole point of me not trading him and wanting to keep him on the team. Ouch, sorry about that. I totally just dropped something on my foot that hurt. So the season came to an end. We sucked. Well, I guess it hasn't came yet, but as you can tell, we're 56 and 80 something, and it just gets a little worse. We finish off, I want to say 67 wins is where we were at for this first season. Oh, 68, my bad. 68 and 94 was our first season stats, or win-loss record. Think when we end up checking the standings, we ended up being one of the third worst teams in the league. So we were the worst in the AL. I think there was two teams worse than us. Like there was the Pirates and the Diamondbacks in the NL. And so that gives us third pick for the next year's draft, which is going to be great. Can't wait for that. So that we're even higher. And then after that season, I want to see some progression and us fall like do better in the regular season. I'm not saying we should necessarily be in the playoffs right away, but I want to see progress and wins. I looked at Cabrian Hayes because that's always somebody I want to trade for, and he honestly did pretty like at average, I guess, for that season. His stats look crazy, and I saw Adam Frazier really got this stat boost in this update. So it was cool. It was cool. Um, Brian Reynolds. I just went through their whole roster because I wanted to see why they performed that bad. Because honestly, their team's better than us. So I don't see why they did that much worse. And their division's not like there's no one. There's not a powerhouse in that division. So you think they'd be able to steal a little more wins. Now the Diamondbacks, on the other hand, they have an excuse. I mean, they got hitters in there. So in their division, so I could understand them having a bad one. But Cedric Mullins, 309 average, 592 slug, and I think his OPS was above 900. I think he got me 30, it was either mid 20s or 30 home runs. Just an amazing season for the guy. And I was like, every stat went up. So it's like, that's just somebody you want. Yeah, 31 home runs, 90 RBIs is low because our team sucks. Nicky Lopez had no home runs, especially the time he was with us, but 282 average is like you can't be mad at that. He gets on base, which is what I wanted. Trey Mancini, this is when I realized I forgot to trade him, honestly, because he was supposed to be moved. Mountcastle, 252, about average. Like, nobody did amazing outside of our one saving grace, Cedric Mullins, but we got some development. Adley Rutschman went up a lot. I think there's like 4 overall points. And so it's like, yep, you bought yourself some time to let Pereira develop because you're what you need. You're almost better than Pedro Severino. So I'd have to leave him alone for the time being. And now I think we are nearing the end. As we saw, there was nobody important that retired for us, but Miggy and Robinson Cano both entered the Hall of Fame. And so this is where we end the episode. In next episode, you'll see your first gameplay, and you'll get to see the brand new Carolina Storm. I appreciate y'all tuning in. The next episode should probably be up Saturday. No, yeah, Saturday is probably the best day. And thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.